Hi, I'm Zach Briggs, and the ethical question I'll be talking about is should international uh, committees restrict scientific research that seeks to increase human lifespans? I want to share that the position I will be arguing for, which is that we should restrict research that attempts to increase human lifespans. And I will go over ethical principles that would support my side and evidence that would also oppose my side. In order to fully understand why I'm taking the pro side, is to look at the consequences of what this would mean for the community as a whole. Utilitarianism is the idea that the results of actions taken by an individual should have value and positive impact on that of everyone else, or the support of the greatest net happiness. If scientific research is successful in breaking through, solving the issue in question, as a result, the population of Earth will drastically increase. A fact to bring up is that without these scientific advancements, the population is estimated to increase to 11.2 billion in the next century, compared to the 7.2 billion or 7.6 billion that it's at right now, which would already be unsustainable from the not too far future. The fact that it could increase even more than that is hard to fathom. There will be a much greater amount of people living in poverty, as there will only be so many job opportunities. I think about how there are millions of people already in that conversation, and our goal should be to lower that number, not to increase it, as scientific research would unfortunately do. It's an endless cycle that would cause more people to be impoverished and not have jobs. The people of Earth also have a high rate of consumption, which is only predicted to increase in the near future as well. Jeremy Bentham was a philosopher that created the idea of utilitarianism, and many ideas in the field can be attributed to him. So I just wanted to give him some credit. The next ethical principle that does go hand in hand with utilitarianism is the common good approach, that finds it just to partake in actions that will benefit the community as a whole. The increase of population size also would come with a great increase in harmful effects to the environment. Pollution would increase as consumption increased as well, just causing greater landfills, worse living conditions, and without a breakthrough in scientific research to handle pollution, it would negatively impact the greater good of society. Many reasons that people would want to conduct this kind of scientific research could be for a selfish reason, such as a family member they want to live longer, or for themselves, but wouldn't consider the consequences they had on the rest of the world. And as you will see, many of the points on this pro side are highlighting the consequences of researching. The third ethical theory I'm using is the justice theory. With all the aforementioned ethical theories, justice ties them together because if an individual had all this prior knowledge and still conducted research, it would be unjust to people that would be impacted by this overpopulation. It would not be morally fair to all the people that are now living longer than they normally would have to take some resources, job opportunities, potentially educational opportunities that people who need to be successful in this world will no longer have. A simple restriction could prevent all of this from happening. It will also cause many more people to be impoverished as competition starts to increase in the market. We want to set the world up for success, and to do so, it would be to help the people on Earth that are dying of cancer at a young age, not people who wish to selfishly spend more time with their loved ones at the potential cost of many things, and even the near future, as population will increase drastically in the next century. Now to look at the counterargument that there should be no restrictions on the research of increasing lifespans. If you look at it from a libertarian perspective, you would argue that all humans have the rights to life, liberty, and property. This would restrict life and liberty, as someone would not be free to do whatever they want. Restricting this would violate those fundamental rights, disallowing someone to pursue their dream as an individual. The idea that scientists could not conduct their research, which could have led to a scientific breakthrough in curing a certain disease, would take a moral stand against an international committee putting up a restriction. After all, scientific advancement has positively impacted the world in countless ways already in history. Although I think that scientists should be instead researching ways to improve the quality of life of those already living or targeting diseases in order to find a treatment or a cure. You could also look at this from a utilitarian perspective and use utilitarian ideas due to the benefits on the world of scientific advancements in general. The more scientific advancements, especially in the biological field, the better we as humans can be equipped to combat disease. This same research that helps a person live longer could be applied to a different age range. Perhaps it would work on a child who is not supposed to live for 3 more years due to an underlying medical condition, but with the treatment is able to live 10 more. That would sound like a good reason to support the research of these diseases to a person who suffers from a disease or doesn't want others to suffer from those same diseases. I would say that this is separate from doing research on disease because this to me is non-essential research, just as it is non-essential your whole life as a whole, but a cure to a disease very well could be. Another point is that science, although powerful, it still has its limits, as there are still many diseases out there with no known cures for, and a bigger overarching fact that death can't be avoided, even by science. A third ethical principle to support the idea of research not being restricted is justice. I think the ideas in place by John Rawls fit nicely here. His idea of a veil of ignorance, which explains how certain decisions that lead to unfair advantages based upon a person's hand they are dealt in life are not following his system of justice. This would not support the basic fairness and freedom of life, as if we take away the ability to conduct research, as if they restricted it, it forces them to submit to their desires. It would not be fair for research to be restricted while other research is not, just because of its practical use to society as a whole. There is a point to be made that it is unfair that people are dying earlier because of aging complications where no research can be done to prevent that. People often undergo career or lifestyle choices because of a perhaps traumatic event in their own life that they would want to fix in everyone else's life so that they wouldn't have to undergo the same traumatic event. An example of this would be a family member dying from a sickness, and in which a person would want to conduct research that could help them, which relates back to this idea of justice. I think that there is bias there, as their motive to conduct the research does not consider the hardships other people may face and does not show to be selfish and does show to be selfish in nature. Now, I want to go over the importance of this argument to the bioethics world. As humans on Earth, we want our species as a whole to survive indefinitely, and would never put anyone on a potential path of harm if we didn't have to. I think we should not go into a future in which a possibility could be a scarcity of natural resources, and any caring person would not want worldwide death because of a depletion of resources, and all we would have to do is restrict this research to save many lives. In the short term, people would be able to have a greater purpose of their individual life, and would have achieved their life fulfillment goals if they had longer to do so. Family members would be able to live longer, so more memories could be made, and they could feel loved for longer, which would benefit all families individually. The improvement on how long we live would not improve the quality of our life, which is very arguably more important than the quantity of our lives. If a breakthrough occurred, it would most likely only impact people in the second half of their life. There is a natural balance to the world. You get born, you live, you die. And there are already many things you can do to impact the quality and your health, which leads to a healthy and longer life anyway. An important point to note is that if we weren't talking about just the lifespan, but instead was talking about ways to increase how healthy people are, I would say this would change my perspective slightly, as being healthier will increase the quality of life, which is more important to me than the quantity. In modern society, there are rising rates of unhealthy people, so if something was invented to help people live longer, those people, since they have money, would be able to take the easy way to a healthy lifestyle instead of eating healthy and staying active. The last part I want to talk about is the stakeholders in both sides of this issue. I would argue that all people on Earth would be impacted by this research. All the ideas of overpopulation are scary to think about. The international committees would be another stakeholder because they would somewhat be violating the rights of the people that they govern. In a more specific note, the families who have someone potentially young in their family that is sick and could be cured if research was allowed to be conducted. The researchers themselves are big stakeholders because they could be on the verge of a huge breakthrough and cannot finish their life's work. All people also on the lower spectrum of class, close to being in poverty, will more likely than not fall under that line where the cost of living will increase as well. So they'll fall below and people will be in poverty. More people will be in poverty. Thanks for listening to my um, debate topic on whether research should be restricted when considering human lifespans. And thanks for listening.